People are saying that San Francisco's office space market is doing really well, but only the ones in the upper floor with a view. That's pretty messed up, if you ask me. I mean, imagine a city's office market is only good. Like, people are only renting your upper units, and they want a view of like the whole city and also the Bay Area water. That's like a really messed up office market. If you go to very hot markets around the world, right, like Sydney, Australia, Singapore, their offices are mostly rented out. Vacancies are very low, and you get what you get. Your view could be a brick wall, but people are still going to lease it. San Francisco office market is so bad right now. The vacancy rates officially reports as 35%, but we all know that it's more than just 35%. Many restaurant owners and club owners are saying that vacancies are so high, it really does feel like vacancies are like 70%. And I don't really blame them, because many of these buildings, like for example, this one, 181 Fremont, right? Facebook vacated nearly 500,000 square feet of space. Yes, Facebook is still leasing this place till 2031, but all the offices in the building are completely empty and void of any office workers. And this is the thing about leases, right? You can't really trust the vacancy numbers to open a store. Let's say I want to open a restaurant in San Francisco. I see the vacancies at 33%. I see a lot of empty storefronts. I think to myself, this may still be very profitable to open a restaurant here. But when you look at the amount of buildings that are still being leased but are still empty, that just shows you maybe opening any store here is probably a bad idea. Not to mention the crime, the shoplifting is at an all-time high in San Francisco. It's just not a great place to have fun. San Francisco's office market is not thriving, okay? Yes, there's still a few buildings out there who have an occupancy rate of nearly 100%, and that's because they're very new. They're very unique offices. 90% of the offices out there are pretty generic. Like, they all kind of just look like little boxes. They look like this. Many of them don't really have a view. You get a view of like the other building. That's really about it. I mean, that's what offices are. Just go there, you work, and you go home. But now we have a rise in San Francisco of super luxury office buildings, which is catering to a select few rich tenants, like some of the AI companies. And those are going to be the units that do get leased out, and those are going to be the buildings that have a very high occupancy rate. But how long can that last, right? It's very similar to the Adobe situation recently. If you guys don't know what's going on here, Adobe actually rented like this massive space here, which is this building here, 100 Hooper Street, a recently built office space. So you would think that this building has a 100% occupancy rate. Absolutely. This building is filled to the brink because it's brand new, it's in a good location, and transportation is pretty good, right? This is one of the few areas in San Francisco where you don't see tents everywhere. So this is a high-end, low-rise office building. Adobe has already vacated out. They're kind of done with it, and they're putting up like 170,000 square foot of space for sublease. And Adobe makes up a huge portion of this office, and I think Adobe just simply wants to leave this place. And already, this building, they're still trying to pay off the mortgage, and Adobe is trying to leave. That's pretty wild. The landlord's probably sweating bullets at this point. And same thing with LinkedIn, Dropbox, Airbnb. Everyone is already taking out massive amounts of money to cancel their leases, or just simply just trying to sublease it out. But as time goes on, you're going to be seeing the vacancy rates slowly take higher and higher. And let me tell you guys what's going on here. The vacancies are hitting a record high. It's 35% for quarter 3 of 2023 this year. But I think with quarter 4, by the end of Christmas, 35% most likely be 39% or even 41%. The reason why it's not going up super fast is because, like I said before, the leases don't end. Many of these companies sign leases like Facebook with 2031. I mean, 2031, that's a long time. And this is what happens to a lot of companies. And Dropbox, for example, signs a lease for like a very long time, and they straight up just paid a $70 million penalty to cancel it. And this is what happens when a lot of these leasing units have virtually no tenants. They sell for dirt cheap prices. This is a unit that's actually pretty good in a decent location. It's a very nice looking unit. It's very traditional brick looking. And overall, I say that this is a high-class, high-end office building. The sidewalks look nice. The environment is pretty decent. And you also have some pretty decent views of downtown as well. Former Airbnb leased office sells for a massive discount in San Francisco. Blackstone is showing off this place, and Blackstone just sold the place for 50% off. I mean, you can't even get 50% off on Black Friday, but you could get 50% off in the San Francisco office market. And what's really bad about this is Blackstone bought it for $50 million in 2016. So you would think that after 7 years of price appreciation, maybe at least you could sell it for the break-even price of $50 million, right? Maybe even a little bit higher, like $52 million. But no, despite holding on to it for nearly a decade, Blackstone sold it for $25 million last month to the latest buyer, 50% off, right? And here's the thing, $50 million back in 2016 is worth so much more compared to now. Inflation right now is so bad. 50 million back in the old days is probably worth a lot more, right? Several $1,000,000 more. So the meager fact that you got to sell it for a 50% loss is insane. And I don't even think having Airbnb as a tenant for the past few years was even profitable. Like, this is sad for a lot of banks. They buy these massive buildings, they lease them out, and now because of the pandemic, many of these buildings are empty, and they're forced to sell these huge buildings at a massive loss. And many of the tenants before, that money was just peanuts compared to the amount of losses that these guys are experiencing. And this is a scary situation because small regional banks have their hands deep into this market. Small regional banks have a lot of money in commercial real estate, and it really frightens me that many of these regional banks over leveraged during the pandemic because of 0% interest rates on office buildings, because everyone had the same ideology. Oh, everyone's going to come back to the Bay Area after the pandemic. Everyone's coming back to San Francisco, but surprise, 150,000 office employees no longer come to San Francisco because who wants to, right? And now you also have these newly built buildings already facing vacancies, already facing companies who want to downsize their office. It's a big deal, and I kind of understand why. I think San Francisco would still be a pretty great place to work and live if it wasn't for like the intensive crime, right? San Francisco, before, they had a lot of petty crime, but nothing too violent, and there were like a lot of office workers and a lot of talent, which people really liked, so people were willing to put up with it. But now you got Walgreens putting chains on freezers because shoplifters are targeting stores 20 times a day. That's not normal at all. In fact, this is probably one of the most unnormal things I've ever seen. And the city is pretty much doing nothing to stop all this situation. You know, and you also got federal workers in San Francisco told to just simply work remotely for the foreseeable future because the local crime is so bad and it's pretty dangerous to walk around the streets. And this is why you have a lot of companies just simply downgrading the office and leaving. One of the most notorious and infamous examples was Skills. Skills is actually a multi-billion-dollar company specialized in gaming, I think. Not really sure, but they're listed on the NASDAQ. They straight up left San Francisco without a word and went to Las Vegas and rented like hundreds of thousands of square footage of space, of offices. We're seeing this everywhere. Restaurants are closing, bars are closing. San Francisco is taking a massive beating. And the office market is absolutely getting decimated. You're selling buildings for 50% off. That's not normal at all. In fact, if you bought any sort of residential property in a decent city back in 2016, you're selling it for a good profit now, not for a 50% loss. That's wild. Thanks for watching, guys. Comment below, like, comment, and subscribe for more.